Imagine this. You're flying over the Andes Mountains, surrounded by your teammates and friends. Laughter fills the cabin. Then suddenly, impact. Metal tears, screams echo, and in seconds, your plane is ripped apart in the frozen wilderness. You survive the crash, but the nightmare is only beginning. This is the true story of the Andes flight disaster. 72 days of survival against the impossible. On October 13, 1972, a chartered plane carried 45 passengers, mostly the Uruguayan Old Christians rugby team, along with family and friends. They were headed from Montevideo, Uruguay to Santiago, Chile. Spirits were high. Nobody expected tragedy to strike. As the plane crossed the Andes, bad weather and pilot error sealed its fate. The aircraft clipped a mountain peak. The fuselage ripped open. Passengers were thrown across the snow. 12 died instantly. Dozens more were injured. The survivors, stunned and bleeding, found themselves stranded at 12,000 feet in one of the harshest environments on Earth. With no rescue in sight, the survivors rationed chocolate, wine, and scraps of food. They used seat cushions as makeshift blankets against the freezing nights where temperatures plummeted below 30 degrees. Every night they prayed rescue teams would arrive. Every day they stared at the endless white horizon. After 10 days, hope was shattered. On a small transistor radio, they heard devastating news. The official search had been called off. Rescue would never come. The group was on its own, stranded, starving, and freezing. As days turned into weeks, their bodies weakened. Hunger clawed at their sanity. There was no vegetation, no animals, nothing alive in the endless snow. They faced the unthinkable decision. To survive, they would have to eat the bodies of their dead friends. It was an act that horrified the world when the story came out. But for the survivors, it was the only way to live. Several groups tried to hike out of the mountains. But the Andes is a brutal place. Endless ridges, avalanches, blizzards. Every attempt ended in failure, forcing the survivors back to the wreckage. As if things couldn't get worse, an avalanche buried the fuselage one night, killing 8 more survivors. The snow sealed them inside, suffocating and panicking them until they clawed their way out. Their numbers dwindled, but still they clung to life. Finally, 2 of the strongest men, Nando Parado and Roberto Canessa, made one last attempt. With scraps of food, no real gear, and sheer determination, they walked for 10 brutal days across mountains no one thought could be crossed. Exhausted and near death, they stumbled into a valley where they finally met a Chilean shepherd. On the 72nd day, helicopters arrived. The remaining 16 survivors were pulled from the mountains. Against all odds, they had endured one of the greatest survival stories in human history. The world called it the miracle of the Andes. But to the survivors, it wasn't a miracle. It was courage, it was sacrifice. It was the human spirit's refusal to die. 72 days, 6 survivors. A story of desperation, endurance, and the strength to do the unimaginable. This is the miracle of the Andes.